Once our guest's aunt was diagnosed with lung cancer, life changed for both ladies. Our guest on this episode is Sayen Gates of Columbia, South Carolina, and we're going to hear about a cancer journey from Sayen's perspective, the perspective of a caregiver. So here she is, and Sayen, welcome to the Cancer Interviews podcast.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and we look forward to hearing your story. Now, the first thing we do with all of our interviews is to learn a little bit more about our guest exclusive of their involvement with cancer. So if you would tell us a bit about where you're from, what you do for work, and when time allows for fun, what you do for fun.
My name is Sayen Gates. I am from Columbia, South Carolina. I am a shadow life coach, and I'm also a alternative medicine student. I like to go skating for fun because my father used to take us like me and a couple of my cousins skating to get all the energy out. But for me, it felt like a freeing experience, a way to just shut out the noise, especially like when you put on headsets. It's just you, yourself, and spirit.
All right, wonderful. Now we want to get to your life's involvement with cancer. When you first learned of your aunt's diagnosis, did this news come suddenly, or was it sometime in coming so you had a chance to prepare mentally and emotionally?
When I got the news of my aunt having lung cancer, it came in a dream first before she actually told me. Because my mom said that she'd had a cold for a while and she didn't know why. We had tried everything, quercetin. I think she had tried the green alcohol, witch hazel, anything a Southern gal knows about getting rid of a cold and getting rid of sniffles. But it seemed like it persisted and it didn't work. Then my mom said at one point she went to get a scan and they said they found something in her lung. When they went in to biopsy it later on, that's when, before they even told me, I had a dream about it. It was a very intense dream where it was like God was showing me people that were leaving and the people that were being replaced. Some people I could see and other people I couldn't. So when her face came up, and my father was next to her, that gave me two signs. Either A, he's going to look out for her during this time that she's sick, or B, something is not right. So I woke up crying and I heard her crying in the kitchen. And she said, and I asked her, I was like, is there something that you need to tell me? My mom said, your aunt now, she has stage 4 lung cancer.
Now, once that dream became reality, what went through your mind as to the present and the future?
The first thing that came into my mind is that I was slightly upset because I was like, Dad, every time you come, either someone has died or somebody's in danger. I appreciate you, but why do you have to take the one person in my life that not just reminds me of you, but has the same essence of you? But the next thought, I was like, sometimes these things cannot be controlled, and it's not up to us to try to control them. The only thing I could do was just to be myself. And I know that for me, the one thing that me and my father had in common was we would always try to find the humor and the silver lining in things. So I thought about the future when I was like, when I talked to her, I was like, so what do you want for your victory dinner? Do you want fried chicken? Do you want collard greens? Do you want potato salad? Like, we could do literally whatever you want, but we're going to beat this. And she started laughing and giggling, and my mom looked at me like, really? I'm like, yes. Yeah, I mean, I was like, I can't be sad right now. I'm the strong person right now. And I want to sit here and be the rod for her and not try to be over emotional, like, oh my God, she's going to die. No, I don't believe in that. You do all you can until you can't do anything else.
By the way, we're confident you'll be able to learn some tips and tools to help you through your personal cancer journey. But first, we'd like to invite you to please give us a like, leave a comment or a review below, and share this story with your friends. Kindly click on the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon. That way you'll be notified the next time we have a cancer interview. And if you or a loved one are facing a cancer diagnosis, please click on the link in the description and show notes below to check out our free guide, The Top 10 Things I Wish I Knew When I First Got Cancer. Now, Sayen, at the time of your aunt's diagnosis, was it a given that you would be the caregiver, or were there others that could have and did fill that role?
It was a given because of the fact that I went to school as a medical assistant. Although that I did not have everything at hand, I always asked my teachers questions. One of my teachers that was a nurse, I asked her, like, what are some things that I could do? She had passed along a lot of knowledge from there. Then there was a friend of mine who is very big on holistic medicine. And he said that one thing that you can get her to do is drink okra water. So okra water, there is a, not a protein, there is a certain antioxidant in okra that is supposed to be able to isolate cancer cell, and it's supposed to just stop it in its tracks if you're eating it regularly. At first, she didn't drink it. And majority of the time, it was like she wanted either water or she wanted to eat ice. But we had to sit here and try to figure out how to make her eat, because we knew she couldn't eat her regular Chinese food anymore. And we knew that you're not supposed to feed the cancer. You're supposed to actually starve it in the way of what the doctors told us. And I said, okay, cool. I'm going to follow the doctor's initiative. So we made sure that she ate clean. We prepped her food. We made sure that, and that's me, my mom, and her 2 children. We all made sure that she took her breathing treatments, any medication that she was supposed to be on. We made sure she too did that. But in the process of doing that, some things took a drastic turn. Like we noticed after one day when we noticed one day when she felt like she could not breathe and she was starting to panic. My mom yelled for me in the other side of the room, and she was like, Ariel, I don't know what to do. You need to help me out here. I was like, Deb, you have to breathe slow and easy breaths, because if you panic, you cannot, I was like, you're not going to be able to breathe. You're going to be gasping. And she was taking slow, steady breaths and everything. And I was like, Mom, we're going to have to call the hospital because you can't leave her like this. She didn't want to go, and my mom didn't want to send her. And I was like, well, Mom, there's not much that we can do here. If we try to give her breathing treatments, it's only going to help for a certain while, and then she's going to be back in the situation. So we end up having to send her to the hospital, and we didn't see her for about a week or 2. But when she came back a week or 2, she had like knots on her arms. And we were trying to figure out, where did those come from? So they sent over a nurse, and they said that the knots came from her allergic reaction to the medication that she was taking. And so we were like, okay, so we're going to have to wean her off the medicine. The doctor did not approve that. He wanted us to keep her on the medication, and he wanted us to make sure that she continued to take her breathing treatments and such. I asked the nurse, I was like, is there any way that we can do something to counteract the side effects, or like at least try to get her to where she's walking? Because at this time now, she doesn't want to even get out of bed because they had her in the bed all day. And I was like, maybe we can recommend some physical therapy so that way she can get used to going and getting out of bed, because after a while, we had been helping her get in and out of the bed, onto the pot, back in the bed, sitting her up so she can eat, just all the initial things. I'm sorry, am I saying too much?
Oh, no, not at all. But let me ask you this, Sayen. There's lots of information on the internet for those who are diagnosed with cancers. For caregivers, not so much, or not as much. Now, you've mentioned that you had a background in healthcare, and there was a nurse that you could go to learn some things. Are there other sources, other places you went to get some information? Because it sounds like you were prepared for almost anything that came your way.
Yep. Like I said, I always tried to keep my the nurse that we had on speed dial, because she was very knowledgeable what she did. She was excellent, hands down, best nurse I've seen. Because there's some nurses that will sit here and say, okay, I care about you, but then they'll just half do their job. She did her job. She made sure that we knew exactly how to put the breathing treatments together, made sure how much she could get in the still water when it comes to her air pump when she had to breathe at night. I had put her on medicine schedule. I put a little chart on the outside of her door to see what time that she was supposed to get her medication at that time. And then whoever was available, then they could give it to her. Or if I was home, if I didn't have to work at that time, because I was doing medical transporting during COVID. So I tried to make sure I limited my centering with her, because I was also going near nursing homes that either had an outbreak or they just finished having an outbreak. And I didn't want to take that to her. So any of the clothes I had, we had like we have an outside laundry area, and I would strip from there, put my clothes in a bag, and run to the shower, and then I would go and help her. Another resources is like, and this seems like it's simple, but a lot of people are afraid to ask. Do not be afraid to ask questions, whether it be to the doctor or to someone that either was a cancer survivor, what they did. And when I asked my friend about holistic directions to go, he was very thorough with it. He said, make sure she's not drinking anything processed. Make sure everything she has is either fresh, organic, or it's something that is not, if it's frozen at the point of when it got in the bag or something. He's like, because you don't want anything to feed the cancer. You want it to starve, if that makes any sense.
All right. Now, again, it sounds like you were prepared for just about everything that came your way. Little or nothing caught you by surprise. But out of all the things that you did and have done in your caregiver role for your aunt, what was the toughest part?
The toughest part for me was when I had to stay up with her at night, because I knew that I had to go to work in the morning. And I'm trying to make sure that I say it right. There'll be some times where she'd have these episodes where she'd feel like she was being attacked. So I could hear her calling my name down the hall. So I'd run down the hall, sit with her, and she's like, can you pray for me? And I'd sit with her for about 2-3 hours or so. And I would pray for her, and I'd ask God to be a fence on her behalf, keep her safe mentally and happily, just everything I could in that process. And then when I knew she was sound asleep, I was able to let her be able to sleep. I do remember one time where it was like the first night when she was going through the breathing treatment, she didn't want to sleep in her bed. So she slept on the couch. So that was a night that I think I was off, and she was trying to encourage me to go to bed, because she didn't want to. Two things that she said she didn't want me to know. One was that she didn't want to be a burden to all of us. But we tried to tell her, you're not a burden. You've done this for us. I mean, we may not have had cancer, but when it was time for us to be sick, you helped us. And I told her, Mama, I'm not going to sleep until you go to sleep. So when you go to sleep, I am right here. So she slept on one half of the long couch. I slept on the other half just in case she needed me. My mom tried to scoop me to go to my room, and I said, I'm not leaving my mama. I was like, I'm right here for her if she needs me. This is what I trained for. I didn't know what it was for. I was going to medical school for besides phlebotomy, but I knew that I could do this.
Our guest is Sayen Gates of Columbia, South Carolina, and we're hearing about her experience as a caregiver for her aunt who was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Now, here's a part of the equation, Sayen, that we don't hear a whole lot about, but it's an important part of the equation for any caregiver. And that is, and I've heard, what I'm about to share with you, I've heard more than once from patients when they talk about their spouse or their, in your case, family member who is a caregiver. And there are instances in which these patients will say the cancer journey in some instances can be tougher on the caregiver than the patient. I don't know if that was the case for you, but here you are giving out a heaping helping of support for your aunt. Who gave you support during this time?
At that time, my boyfriend, and my friends at that time, and Spirit gave me the most support because I had to learn how to separate not just being the caregiver, but being the human being with feelings. You see, when we care, the one thing that I learned as a caregiver is like, especially if you've been a chronic people pleaser, you always try to put someone else's feelings above your own. But then when it's your turn to your cup to be filled up, you're always negative because you've already given from the reservoir. So I would try to make sure that when she wasn't a need for me, I did yoga, I did meditation, I did affirmations. I made sure that I prayed. I took a moment to myself to sit outside instead of feeling like I was confined in the house. I think there was a one point where I actually went to visit a friend at their job because they, at the time they worked at a metaphysical shop, and it felt so much at peace there. And I was being clocked to where I couldn't stay too long because my mom only knew but so much from what she knew when she was a kid. And she needed my help. And she was like, you're not going to stay out that long, right? I'm like, no, ma'am. I'm just going to be like 30 minutes and then I'm going to be right back. And then it's like, as soon as I got there and I sat down, and the only thing I could do was cry. And my friend sat there, he was like, are you okay? And I was like, I am, and I'm not at the same time. I was like, I'm scared because I want to do everything possible for her. I tried to ask the doctor if he could do this for her. He said no, because he said it's going to be a waste of time giving her physical therapy. And I was like, I was telling him everything. And he was like, you continue to do what you can and make a note of it. And just understand that she appreciates everything you do, encouraging me and giving me, filling up my cup when I needed it. And
Sayen, knowing what you now know about the caregiver experience, if you had to do this experience again from the start, excuse me, what, if anything, would you do differently?
All honesty, I would do it again. I wouldn't care. Because you have but so many special people in your life. And to me, she was not just a mom to me. She was someone that accepted me for who I was, goofy, silly, confusing, unique, whatever it is that I identified. Between her and my mom, she accepted me when I was going through an identity of understanding my status in the LGBTQ plus community. And I loved her for that. Not many people knew about me being bisexual, but she kind of figured it out later. And she just wanted me to be okay. My boyfriend, he was very supportive during the time. The one thing I say I would do differently is I would get a different doctor. I would have sought a second opinion. But it's like I couldn't do much of anything because, number one, I didn't have power of attorney. Number two, I could only give as much advice as I can because illegally medical assistants, you can't diagnose a patient. You just have to give what you see to the doctor and pray that they can see as much as you can. I would have just sought another opinion. Thank God she didn't have to do chemo. But kept the same nurse, just different doctor. Again, but I would gladly do it again. I wouldn't change anything besides maybe being a little bit more aggressive with her walking. But other than that, I would not change a thing. I will be there for my mom.
Now, Sayen, we're about to wrap up, but before we do, I want to address something that is very important to you and something that our viewers and listeners should know about. You have taken the knowledge that you have gained through this experience and put it into action so that your help for others is radiating out in all sorts of other directions. If you would, tell us about your website and your venture, Shadow Corner Life Coaching.
So Shadow Corner Life Coaching started out as just me doing vlogs about my experiences going through trauma, heartache, and everything. Then it evolved in me giving advice on situations that would help you through those times. Then I did a shift to say, okay, so why don't I do this full time instead of just doing it just virtually from TikTok? In the end, I ended up opening my practice in 2023, in May of 2023. And then from there, I got my website, www.shadowcornerlifecoaching.com. And I'm currently now taking clients, and I'm trying to help people get to the good part. Because what I do is I help you deconstruct and reconstruct the mindset that you have. And sometimes it's not an easy task to do. Other times it may take more than just one session to help. But in any case, I'm here to help, and I'm going to use the same serving tactics I had as a caregiver to do with my clients.
Excellent. Excellent. Sayen, thanks very much for sharing your story. We appreciate it. We appreciate you telling us about Shadow Corner and that web address one more time. What is it if people want to go to it and find out more about what you do?
It's www.shadowcornerlifecoaching.com.
And Shadow Corner Life Coaching is just one big word, correct?
Yep, all one big word.
Okay, wonderful. Sayen, again, thanks so much for your time. And thanks so much for sharing your story. And we know that that you are not done supporting others because of the work you do with Shadow Corner. So again, Sayen Gates, Columbia, South Carolina, thanks for being with us on Cancer Interviews.
No problem.
And we want to remind you one more time that if you were a loved one or are on a cancer journey, that you are not alone. There are people out there like Sayen that can be of help and can make that cancer journey a little bit easier. So until next time, we'll see you on down the road.